Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to NanoCast. I'm Sean, your host. This is a brand new podcast all about the cryptocurrency Nano. Nano is fast, feeless, scalable, and led by a driven team. It's inspired thousands to participate in the development of its services and apps. And today, or on this podcast, you're going to be able to meet some of these people and learn what they're up to. So, we'll get right to it, and I will most certainly not get his name right, but from Canoe Wallet, we have Göran Krampe.
Yeah, that's pretty close, actually. Thank you.
Thanks so much for being with us. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about yourself, where you're from, and what your day job is, and what your journey was to get to Nano.
Yeah, so I'm from Sweden. I live just north of Stockholm with my family, wife, 2 kids, 2 cats, a boat, a house, too little free time. And I've been programming since I was like 12 years old. And now I'm almost 50. Not quite yet. 49 this year. But so I'm all about software development, all about programming. It's been all my life. And crypto, actually, I have sort of steered away from. Probably because I knew that it was going to consume some of my time if I sort of got into it. So I've sort of just looked at it from a distance until like November, December last year. Yeah. So and then I'm not quite sure what triggered it, but I suddenly decided to just sit down and try to get a grip on this area. Yeah.
Is it just because you were seeing it more in the news, you think?
No, I'm trying to recall what it was. It was probably some kind of trigger, and I've been thinking about it, quite some time. If I was going to buy a little bit, and everyone's talking about Bitcoin, and I wasn't really ever interested in Bitcoin actually, because that felt like yesterday's news. Yeah, so I started by researching, as I always do. Doesn't matter what it is. I always Google myself to tears, even if it's like buying some new toy or whatever. I always research. So I started researching, and from the developer perspective, and mining and all that always felt, somewhat insane. So I try to find, there must be some kind of new development. There must be some kind of new currencies that don't work based on mining. And so I quickly got it down to like three currencies that was worth looking at. And that was Byteball and IOTA, and then Ryblox, as it was called then. And IOTA, that there was too many, warnings for me. I didn't like what I saw there, even though it was, ranked quite high, and a lot of talk about IOTA, but no, didn't really tick my check boxes, so to speak. And I'm an open source guy. I love open source. I've been always, no, I shouldn't say always, but for a very, very long time, I've been involved in open source projects. So I sort of put that to the side quite quickly. Byteball is interesting. Technically quite advanced, so, and I still think Byteball is, it's there. But for some reason, I'm not quite sure what it is, but they never really got the momentum. So
well, they did kind of have a lot of momentum back in like August. I was following Byteball back then, and like they were doing all these airdrops is how they were doing the distribution. Right. And at one point it was several $100s for one Byteball.
Yeah.
But and then I think, as time went on, it just kind of dissipated.
Yeah, a little bit. And when I looked at it, it was sort of neck and neck with Nano. Now I was looking at coin market cap, and it's like, where is it? It was like down in place 86 or something. It was like, what happened there? Not quite sure. So anyway, I decided to get into Ryblox, as it was called then, and I realized that I was only going to have time to spend on one, so I wasn't really interested in anything else. I haven't been tracking anything else. I haven't been buying anything else. Well, of course, you need to buy Bitcoin or whatever to get to Nano, but I don't have anything else at the moment, and I actually don't have that much Nano either. People tend to think that just because I'm involved, I probably have like a shitload of Nano. I don't. I bought in like there in December. I think it was around $4 then, something like that. So right now it's I'm almost back to where where I bought it, but it's for the long term,
Yep.
And since I'm a developer, it felt like there must be something here that I could sort of do, and the wallet side was quite anemic at the time. The desktop wallet, I mean, the desktop wallet is a sort of a special beast because it's not made to be, it's not made for end users really. It's sort of almost like a test tool for developers. So I'm fine with that. But I realized that this should be something a little bit more user friendly and everyone, I'm going to generalize a bit here, but all the younger developers, they like to let's use this cool technology to build this. Or I'm more like, okay, so how can I only have this many hours per night to spend. How can I get a head start? How can I sort of just get as much as possible for free? And since I was looking at Byteball, there was a lot of people writing about, the Byteball wallet is really good. So I looked at that and I realized, wait a minute, this is a Copay clone. So Copay is the open source wallet made by BitPay, which is a fairly big Bitcoin based operation, right? I'm not quite sure how big they are. But so they made Copay, and it's under the MIT license. So it's basically, you can just grab it and do whatever you like with it.
Right. So
I tried cloning Byteball first, but I couldn't get that to work. So I went upstream and I cloned Copay instead. And that's quite easy. It's quite, how should you call it? It's a large code base. It's kind of complex, but it was quite well documented, and there's a coherent style through the whole wallet. So it was quite easy to get going with it. And so that's how it started in December. And I was trying to drum up some interest, like, hey, I've got this, I'm going to do this. Anyone want to jump in and help out? And the uptake was kind of slow, I must say. But that's the usual story. People don't really get into it until it works. So they wait until it's actually a real project. So I knew I had to sort of put in the hours before anyone was going to help out.
Right. And I think in December, like, everybody was just like so stoked about the price, they were like having trouble even thinking about the future.
Yeah.
And then once it was like, it kind of had its plateau and it came down, we're like, okay, what do we need to do to like help keep this project going? We don't want it to die like it seems like every other cryptocurrency is.
Yeah. I mean, December and New Year's Eve and all that was kind of crazy. But who knows what happens? It's a volatile market. The whole market is very volatile, and then suddenly something happens, like, oh, that was good, or oh, that was bad, and So
we all know the what must not be named project you're talking about. Or incident rather.
Oh yes, that was like, oh my god, that was not good, and all the people writing about it, all the people having different views about it. As usual, I read a bit about it, trying to figure out, what's the technical side of this. Some of the technical bits were, insane. So I should have guessed it, because actually I used Bitcoin too, because that was the only thing that could be used, and the user interface was like, yeah, it didn't really give you any good feeling there as a developer.
Right.
Yeah. So today it's a completely different story. Now we have a bunch of kind of big players, and yeah, hopefully we will not see something like that again. But you know, it's one thing that I've learned is that no matter how cool the web page looks, and you know, you really don't know how large and how serious the operation is behind it. It could be just a guy in a garage, you know.
Right.
So, which is also a reason. If we look at Canoe, one of the things that people wonder is like, can we trust this? I mean, is this for real? Is this serious, or is this a company? Are they gonna, you know? There must be something weird about it, right? And I actually felt we got a pretty good-looking website right now, but I'm kind of torn on that part, because whenever I see a slick website, it's like, yeah, okay. Are they gonna try to trick me? Is this some kind of a commercial thing going?
Yeah.
And it's not. It's actually a community project, but I think a lot of people miss that, because they see this flashy web page and they think, oh, okay, so there's a company here. But it's actually not.
But really, you just have a good designer.
Mike did the design, and he's really good. Unfortunately, he has quite a lot on his plate, so right now he had to step down from the team. He's still on the homepage, but yeah, Mike he's from Holland, but he's actually living in Japan. So we're completely spread out.
Speaking of your website, I just wanted to mention that I really like the Canoe logo. I think that's a really nice kind of reference to Ray Blocks, and it's good looking.
Yeah, we discussed that. For the first version was made by Josh Casquejo, who was actually the first guy who jumped in with me. He made the first logo, and he also had the connection with the Canoe idea, with the rye blocks, the rye stones, and everything. And then we got the better looking logo from Mike, and and then when the rebranding came, we felt no, we're not going to rename it. We're not going to change it. We're just going to keep it. It's going to have to be sort of a slight reminder of where we came from, and so we think it's kind of nice to have that.
Yeah,
and I love the original story with the rye stones, and I admit I didn't really think the rebrand was a good idea. Now I don't think Nano works.
Yeah.
But I felt it was a bit too generic as a name. But a name is just a name. If it gets popular, it doesn't matter what it's called. So.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Apple is generic too.
Yeah. We were talking about the company names the other day, me and my wife, and I was saying, some of these names, you have no idea what it means. Spotify. I mean, what is that? What does it mean?
Yeah.
I don't have a clue. I have sort of a slight clue about what it is, but I'm not quite sure. I don't think anyone cares. It's just a good name.
Right. I wanted to also note that I think it's really interesting that whereas most of us were attracted to, well, I would say there's two main reasons people are attracted to cryptocurrency. One is because they believe in the technology. They believe that it's going to revolutionize the way we do business, the way we handle money, which... I don't think that was the reason I originally got into it. And that other main reason is because of the money, or the idea that you can make money, which in 2017, it was really hard not to make money.
Right.
But you came in from this third perspective of, I'm a developer, this seems interesting, I wonder if there's anything that I can do in that space.
Yeah.
Which is a new way to think about coming into cryptocurrency that I'd never thought about before.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I am used to be in developer communities, which are like 99% developers. Crypto is a different game. I mean, there's a whole bunch of people that are not developers, and then there is a huge amount of people that are good designers, which is kind of funny. You know, I find this interesting because in the crypto scene or crypto, domain or community or whatever, you see a lot of these people whipping out really cool designs. Only pixels, only logos, only,
right.
This looks cool. I made this huge portfolio and people make mock-ups of wallets and stuff. And there's a lot of people that can do that, but not that many people that can actually make a wallet, which is interesting. There's an abundance of designers. I have no idea why that is, which is kind of interesting. And then there's also this huge amount of people that aren't developers. So I really need to learn to communicate and not just presume that the people I communicate with are developers. So that's interesting to me. The previous projects I've been involved in quite heavily were like programming languages.
Right.
So everyone involved were developers. There were basically no other species in those communities.
Yeah, you didn't really interact with the end user or the people that your programming impacted.
Yeah, not in the open source projects, but of course in my daily work I interact a lot with
sure.
end users and customers and whatever.
Right. Well, I guess more the things you were building before, the end user didn't need to understand.
Yeah, or actually the end user were programmers. So
right.
If you're working on a programming language, the end users are developers too. So so I find that interesting, and it's a sort of a refreshing. It's refreshing for me to have all these people with all these other backgrounds.
Yeah.
So, which is interesting in the Canoe team, for example. I realized quickly that I want anyone to jump in. Doesn't matter where they are, where they're from, what they can do. If they really want to do something, everyone can participate. So, and I like to mention one of the guys in the team, Steph. He's so cool. I mean, he made these really nice videos without sound, just run-throughs through Canoe, basically. Clicking through, moving through the user interface quite quickly, but showing everything and showing how to send and receive and everything. And these videos are extremely cool, and I would like to have some on the website. We just haven't had the time to put one up. And then eventually I told him, why don't you just join the team? Because, but I'm not a developer, and it doesn't matter. You're doing cool stuff.
Yeah.
And it turns out he's one of the more interesting people in the team. First of all, the first thing that I didn't really know what he was doing, where he was living or anything. And then he said, I got to go out and pick the grapes. I was like, pick the grapes? Yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah, I have a farm. Like, okay, cool. And then the other day he said, I need to go out and give the donkeys water. Like, do you have donkeys? That's so cool. And then just the other day I asked him, so how do you make money? I mean, what's your main produce? And he said, it's oil. Oil? Yeah, olive oil. So, so he produces like 500 liters of olive oil every year, and he lives in Italy, quite close actually to the one who we don't mention by name.
Yes.
Anyway, so I find this so cool, and he has a lot to offer. I mean, he tests, he finds bugs, he has ideas, he has a completely different perspective. And one of the coolest things is that there are a lot of refugees from Africa where he is. So he showed Nano to them. It's like, and they were, ooh, wow. Yeah. And that's actually one of the more interesting use cases for Nano, like payment worldwide for people who perhaps can't get to a bank or whatever.
Yeah, man, it's incredible. So this is my plug for Canoe. I downloaded the desktop wallet and I downloaded the mobile wallet on my iPhone, and like Nano is advertised to be instant, but I had yet to see it be instant. But because you do the proof of work ahead of time, it's literally instant. Like you click the button and it is on the phone. Yeah, now you can't do it. It seems like you got to give it a few seconds before you send it back. But I mean, who's going to be sending money back and forth between two wallets?
Right.
So, but then it's same thing. The mobile wallet and then also between Nanex and it's also instant between Nanex and the Canoe Wallet, and it just blows my mind to think about. Like I've had people ask me for money before, and I've had to wire it through like Walmart, and it's like I had to go and like make an account and do this and that and connect my bank account, and it's like with this I could literally just like that send money to somebody or make a transaction. So I mean it's and you even think about like credit cards when you buy at a store, it's like you stick your card in or you tap your card or whatever, it still takes a few seconds to process. But
it's interesting and how we built Canoe and the architecture we have there is actually kind of neat. I'm kind of proud of that. It has to do with the fact that I have some experience in that area. So I'm not a front end guy. I'm sort of an all over the place guy, and I'm quite used to setting up server architectures and stuff like that. And in my company, we've been using MQTT quite a lot because we do a lot of IoT projects. So MQTT is the sort of a de facto communication standard in IoT, and it's nothing magical. It's a publish subscribe protocol, which made by IBM and has become very popular. And there are lots of open source implementations for it. So that's actually one of the backbones in Canoe that we're using, publish subscribe between Canoe and the server. And that's actually one of the ingredients is in this instantness, because most of the other wallets, they ask the server, do you have something new for me? No. And then you wait 5 seconds. And do you have something new for me? No. And because you can't do that too often, because if you have 1,000 wallets and they are sort of banging the server, that doesn't work. So you would only do it like once every 5 seconds. If I recall correctly, Nano Wallet does that, unless the code has changed since I last looked at it. But so if you transfer from Nano Wallet to Canoe or vice versa, I don't think you will. It's going to be like 2 or 3 seconds.
Yeah, it still says waiting for blocks. I think.
Yeah, and that's that 5 second, poll period that sort of makes it at least take a few seconds. So, but I mean, a few seconds, instantness, it's no big deal, but it's still an eye opener. Yeah. And as a Swede, I have a sort of an interesting perspective, because in Sweden is not that big of a country. I think we're 9 million or something right now, and we have a quite advanced, but it's a good working banking system. So there are a couple of banks, they cooperate. So they created something called Swish, which I think there is some kind of similar thing in the US, Venmo or something like that. I don't know. So Swish basically means that you send money using your phone to someone else, and you only need their phone number. So you run the Swish app, you send money to a phone number, and it's like bing, like that.
Yep.
If they have Swish. Yep. But nowadays, almost everyone in Sweden has Swish. So, and it's basically instant also, or at least a second or two. It's the same experience. So I've seen what happens when you have that technology. It's really easy to, for example, let's say you go out to dinner with some friends on a restaurant. Earlier you had to share the tab, and you were sitting there trying to calculate, and everyone has their cards. What happens now is that perhaps someone pays. I'll pay it all, and you swish me, right?
You reminded me. I need to Venmo my babysitter from yesterday, so I should get on that.
Yeah. So and when I speak about Nano to friends, I say, well, it's kind of like Swish, but it's free, completely free. There are no fees. I mean, Swish costs a little bit per transaction, a little bit. I don't know how much, but it's still a little bit. Nano is free and it's global. So, and then everyone understands what I'm saying. Oh, cool, Swish, global, no fee, and then they understand exactly what I'm talking about.
What would you say gets you the most excited about Nano?
There are a few things that I think makes it unique. First of all, we have all those checkboxes that I was sort of trying to check off one by one. It's like, okay, so how was the distribution done? Cool. Yeah, they had a pretty good model on distributing it. How much is controlled by the core team? Okay, I think they mentioned the number 6% or something. Basically, a developer fund, right? That's a good number. I mean, compared to some of the other players, Ripple, 80% owned by a company. I mean, come on. I have no idea why people even are interested. It's like insane.
Yeah, same with IOTA.
It's like some kind of lottery scheme. I don't know. Who would ever invest in that? But anyway, so those things were important, of course. But then I think there are some other things that I like about Nano. First of all, it does one thing. I mean, it does. You pay someone. There's not a lot of stuff about smart contracts and yada yada yada. It's not a computing platform. Blah 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 blah. Personally, I think a lot of the other cryptos have way too big of a scope. So this fuzziness turns it into, it's hard to explain what it is. It's hard to explain how it works. It's complicated. And some people get dazzled by that. Oh yeah, smart contracts. Oh yeah, this and that. And I don't. I just want something easy, simple, that works. So that's good. Then of course we have the view from the core team, from Colin himself, that like we're trying to make some kind of a standard thing here, almost like a web standard, almost like so it can turn into something open standard, and that's a much. It's a very refreshing thing to say, instead of saying, yeah, we're going to be turn into billionaires.
Right.
That's not what they're saying. They're saying we want to make a standard thing for payments. So
and it's not about people becoming rich. It's actually about helping people in need, which is also a cool part of it.
Yeah, and I think this. I think everyone is not into it for altruistic reasons, but it's still a pretty strong focus from the creator and everything. So I find that important. And then I also think that the developers so far, the core team that is, has been doing quite a good job, and I have a little bit more inside information since I'm participating in one of the Slacks where I can communicate with the core team. It's a sort of a by invitation thing where it's not a big Slack, so it's just because otherwise it's so much noise, so many people. So they had to sort of have a forum where key players can communicate in a more, sensible, reasonable way.
Sure.
So I'm in contact with them, and I like what I see. I like the focus. I like the drive.
Yep. So you get and I can imagine you're a person they want to have around because you have tons of experience. So, and you understand the code. So when they're running into issues,
from my perspective, they have quite a bunch of good sharp coders, and so I'm not really participating in the core code or anything. But on the wallet side, I have a pretty good experience now, and some of the fixes that came in version 11 was actually because I pointed out flaws in the RPC protocol, and they fixed those. So yeah, I'm trying to stay out of the Node so far. I'm not a C++ guy. It hurts my eyes when I look at it. So
yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So what's next for the Canoe Wallet?
Yeah. So we're kind of, I wouldn't say exhausted, but we're a little bit sort of, taking a breather right now because the week where we released the beta was kind of hectic. It was a lot of fun. I mean, everything went basically as according to plan, which was nice. In the beginning of the week, we said, this is what we're going to do, blah, 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 blah. And we actually did it in that order. First, we released the desktop versions. We got those spread out. People started using that. It worked fine. And it's hard to test these things because we are only 5 people. And then I have no time to test, actually. I'm probably the one who have been using Canoe the least because I'm busy programming it. So, and so you never really know what happens when you have 100 people using it.
Yeah.
But it's been working great. And then we got the Android out. The Android has been installed. Last time I checked, I think we're closing in on 1,000 installs. Something like that. So, and it's growing steadily. And then we have the iOS version, which we got out late in the week. iOS is always a bit of a trouble, so we had some bugs to fix there, and eventually Tyler got it out. So Tyler is keeping track of the iOS version. I'm keeping track of the Android and the others, basically. And yeah.
The iOS looks great, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same code base, all of them, basically. Not much difference, which is a very nice aspect. I mean, when we make bug fixes, it's all over the 5 platforms. When we add a feature, it's for all the 5.
Yeah, I expected it just seems like when you have an application on your computer and your application on your phone, if the interface is the same or similar, it just doesn't work right because it's touching it versus using a mouse. So like I expected it to be, kind of having to learn both, but it's like so intuitive on both of them. It just works great.
Yeah, and I mean, we owe most of that to Copay. I mean, we shouldn't take much credit for the user interface. It's still basically 90% Copay, or 80% at least. So yeah, it was a very well designed wallet from the start, and we are fixing a few things, of course, and adding stuff. But the core design of it and how it works, it's basically from Copay, and yeah. And it works. It has a lot of features. There are some features that I'm not quite sure if people that even have realized are there. For example, one feature that is easy to miss is that there is an incremental search in the transaction history. So if you click on an account, you get all the transactions, right? You have a little search field there. You can actually click there and type in a specific amount, and it will filter the transactions and show the one transaction that you're looking for. Now, searching for an amount is kind of silly, but we want to add like the ability to add a small label or memo to each transaction. So like when you pay your friend, you enter a little bit of text for that. So that's not stored on the ledger, obviously. So we need to store that separately. But then you can search for that, like to find these transactions, and then the search interface it turns out to be much more useful. So there are a lot of these small details in the wallet that you discover over time. So yeah.
So right now you guys are just working on taking a little bit slower, making sure that you get all the kinks worked out, and then you'll start looking at implementing new features. Yeah.
So we have this ironing out period right now. Then there are a few other bugs that we would like to remove. and there are also some things that might be considered features. Like, for example, when you import a seed, today it only recreates one account. And I think most wallets do that. I think the desktop wallet does the same. And then I realized, and then you need to explain to people, but I had 2 accounts. Yeah, but you just need to create an account. It will be the same account again.
Okay.
It's not intuitive.
Right.
And I realized that we can automate this. So I actually written that code already. So what happens when you import? It will recreate the accounts until it finds 5 accounts in a row that has no blocks, that has no transaction, and then it will remove those back. So so that means that you should find all your accounts that you had, unless you have like 5 empty accounts in a row, which is kind of silly. So
right.
So if you had 3 accounts on import, you will have them back.
Okay, I have a couple of questions that aren't related to Canoe Wallet.
Sure.
Just want to get your, well, actually the first one is, just a quick explanation for the layman like me of how you're able to compute the proof of work ahead of time.
Yeah, that's a classic. Yeah, so I didn't really realize this myself first. So the proof of work, it's actually, you have the hash, which is, just a bunch of bytes. 32 bytes, I think. Embarrassing if I'm saying it wrong right now, but I think it's 32 bytes, the hash, for a block. Okay. So you have 32 bytes, basically random bytes, right? That's the input to the proof of work function. So the proof of work function takes this input, and it needs to produce an output. And there's an algorithm here. I'm not going to go into it, but it uses, blah, 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 hashing algorithm in a bunch of iterations until it reaches a sort of certain threshold, blah, blah, blah. So it takes time, right, to find an answer. So it's basically a riddle. Like, the riddle is these 32 bytes, and, here is the answer. And it took me like 10 seconds to figure it out, right? Now, so the answer is only based on that hash, right? So where did the hash come from? Well, it's actually the hash from the previous block.
Okay.
So if you have an account and you have made a few transactions, so let's say you have 7 blocks there. The last block in the account, in the chain, it's a blockchain, right? The last block, perhaps it was a receive block. You received money from someone else. Now, and you did that last week, right? So you have this last block. It has a hash. And the hash is based on the contents of the block, right?
Right.
So you have that hash. And the next block that you produce in this blockchain needs to have proof of work based on that hash.
Okay.
The previous hash. So that means before you do the next block, you can actually pre-calculate the proof of work, because it doesn't depend on the block itself. It depends on the hash of the previous block.
Right.
So you can do one proof of work ahead of time, but you can't do the next because, and that's actually bending the truth a little bit, because, if you're going to produce like 1,000 cents, like, let's say you're a bad guy, you want to overflow the network, so you're going to send really, really small cents, 1,000 of them. Then you could actually pre-compute all those, because then you know exactly what the blocks are going to look like. So you could actually pre-compute all of them. But for regular users, you can really only pre-compute one.
Right.
Because you don't really know what's going to happen next.
Right.
Are you going to receive money from someone? Or are you going to pay someone else? How much are you going to pay? You don't know. So you can only... And what we do in Canoe, and I'm not quite sure about the other wallets. Someone said that the official mobile wallet does this. I don't know. Perhaps it does. What we do is that we pre-calculate one proof of work per account, because it's, each account has its own blockchain. So we can do one ahead of time for each account. And we store them actually in the wallet. So if this is done today and you quit Canoe, it's on disk, right? So if 2 days later you fire up Canoe and you send money, that proof of work is sitting there waiting for you to use it.
That's
so
awesome.
it's still going to be instant, right? But as soon as you produce a block, then it starts to calculate the next.
Right.
And what I realized, or probably any sane person would realize, is that it's only us, the crypto geeks, that make a lot of transactions.
Right.
Normal people don't do that. You make one transaction, one per day, and then you wait a couple of hours, and then perhaps you make another one. You're not going to sit and make 10 at a time. That's not.
Let's see how fast I can do it.
Yeah, right. That's not what's going to do. So I suspect with pre-calculation, I guess you would eliminate the waiting time for like 98% of all payments.
Right.
Because they are almost always going to be one at a time. You buy an ice cream, you buy a cup of coffee, but you don't like buy one more. You don't do that. So.
Right. Moving on to the next question. Any ideas for somehow creating a system that assigns representatives in a way that strengthens the network or is decentralized or something like that?
Yeah, so this is interesting. We have been talking quite a lot about it. First, we realized that, okay, we are creating wallets, right? We're up to, I think Canoe now has 2,400 wallets, something like that. If we, all, desktops, mobile. And these wallets, the default representative for all the accounts is the Canoe representative that we created on the Canoe server. So that felt like, at least the first step, right? We're not going to use one of the official reps.
Right.
So at least we move them away from the official reps. But then, of course, in Canoe, you can change the representative on each account. It's just edit account, change the representative. So it's trivial to do, but normal people won't do it.
Right.
So we were thinking about how to push people in the right direction, help people in this. What's the difference between this rep and that rep? You don't know, right? Mm-hmm. It's like it's internet.
Right.
What is this? Right. It's a website.
Even if somebody says like, "Here's who I am. Here's what I do," you don't know.
Yeah, who knows? You're not even sure if it's the correct picture, and people don't even use their names. I find this a little bit disturbing. Again, the open source communities that I've been involved in haven't been anonymous. People have been using their real names. Perhaps it's because we're older people. We're old guys now, right? Almost 50. So I kind of feel all this hiding behind a nickname, not using your own face. It's kind of slightly disturbing, I think. It turns into a culture of I don't need to take responsibility for anything. I don't really like that. With Canoe, we are real people. We have real names. You can find us all LinkedIn or whatever social media. The domain is registered by me. It's not hidden by a anonymous. There are these anonymizers. We don't use that. So you will find me if you really want to reach me. And I think that's important. Now I actually lost track of the question, but
how to push people to diversify on the representatives.
Okay, so the really interesting bit with this is that I actually chatted with Colin the other day about this, and so we had this idea to have a list of representatives that we have sort of investigated a little bit more, that we actually know who is running it. Perhaps know actually the real person behind it, stuff like that. And so we, as in the Nano community, could maintain such a list of representatives that you really can trust.
Right.
And I'm not talking about Canoe community, I'm talking about the Nano community. So if we maintain such a list, we could push that list dynamically into Canoe. So it's not hard-coded or anything. It's updated live in Canoe. And so you can actually select in a nice menu, just pick one of them, or actually even randomly distribute between them. So because if a lot of people are going to use Canoe, we have no use for everyone ending up with us as the representative.
Sure.
So it doesn't really matter to us. We just want to do the good thing here. So that might be an opportunity. And Colin, well, I presume this is not a secret, so I'm spilling it. But he told me that he felt it was a good idea. And he also told me that this is something you can do without anyone thinking it's strange, but we can't do it. Like,
Right.
Core can't do it because then it's not. But we can do it because we're outside of Core. We're part of the Nano community, the open community.
Right.
So he actually felt it's a good idea. We can't do it, but you can for sure do it, and it's probably a really good idea. So I think we're going to go with that in some shape or form.
Mm-hmm.
I
think that would be great, whether it was the Canoe team initiating it or somebody in the community seeing this interview and initiating it.
Yeah. So, I mean, anyone can start building that list. And I think it has to do with, these representatives need to be a little bit more documented. Like, you need to know where is it hosted, how is it hosted, who is maintaining it, who is that person, a real person, not just some nickname on some chat channel that doesn't fly.
Right. It would be even cooler if, like, you could get on Nanode and see like the stats of the server, like what's like if it's an in-house server, what kind of software, like what operating systems are running on, like that sort of thing. If it's a service like Amazon or a droplet or something that says what it is and what the plan is or something, like really giving you like the details of
definitely
each
so
one.
And Steph, he actually told me just today, he said, like, if you look at the official representative list, a lot of those aren't even online. Sorry, not the official representatives, but I mean the if you look at the representatives in the order of voting weight, there are quite a lot of them that aren't online, I think, unless he had misunderstood something. That's not good. No. So, so that's the idea around that. There was another question, right? No?
I don't think so.
Not
yet.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think it would be really cool for Canoe and future wallets. I mean, it's just my opinion of if once that list was developed, making it so that it kind of distributed it randomly or evenly between the trusted representatives. That just has to be a system before that can happen. So.
Yeah. So I mean, unless you pick one explicitly. So and for picking one, it would be nice to have sort of a link. You can open up the web page about it, try to read a little bit about this representative and why you would pick it instead of some other.
Yeah.
This whole concept of voting and representatives and everything, it's a little bit complicated, and you need to learn a little bit how it works and why it's important. And some ideas are simply bad, like just randomly distributing. That doesn't make anything better.
Right.
But having a vetted list is probably a good thing, I think.
Yeah. Okay. What's your elevator pitch? Why should people choose Canoe over another wallet?
Oh, yeah. On one hand, I of course like to convince people that Canoe is the best shit of all, but I don't want to. The other wallets are doing a lot of. The other developers making the other wallets are really good too, and so I don't want to.
Okay, maybe a better question is how does Canoe rise above the others?
Yeah, right. So I actually did write earlier today. I wrote quite a long Reddit comment about some valuable info for choosing Canoe based on the security aspect. So if we disregard the fact that I think Canoe is the most feature-full wallet at the moment, we have address book, we have scanning of this and that. the scanning part, we actually have a full. We've implemented the full standard for QR codes, so you can scan with amounts and everything. This haven't really been. I don't think people have used this yet because there aren't that many QR codes using this, and so yeah, there's a lot of functionality in there. That's obviously so. But if we look at the security parts, I think it's interesting. And I'm not gonna. It's not a. I'm trying to state this as facts, and not as bad or good stuff about other wallets. But so let's start. First of all, Canoe is open source, and not only the wallet but also the server side. Now, if we look at the official wallets, they aren't even available as source yet. They're the official mobile. They will be, as they keep saying, and I believe them. Not quite sure why they're developing them in this fashion, but there may be good reasons. Anyway, but it's important to not only have the client, you need to have the access to the server side too, I believe. So if we look at other wallets, you may have the client, but you don't have the server side, right? So that's one aspect. Another aspect is this thing about the domain. Like some of the actors in the Nano community, they are anonymous. I find that slightly disturbing. For example, perhaps one of the coolest exchanges in the community, you probably know which one I'm talking about. I try to figure out, who is behind it, the real person, the name, the address, and you can't really find that because the domain is hidden by an anonymizer. There is no information on the homepage about, is this a company? Is this an organization? Is this a singular person? Who is it? There is no such information, which is kind of, yeah. I know for a fact that this is not some bad actor, but I still think it's a problem when these things that we are meant to trust are anonymous. Right. I don't really find that trustworthy, actually. And so I tell all the other wallets, are you going to be anonymous? Okay. I wouldn't trust that. Then we have the facts about the attack vectors, like what are the risks involved. So Canoe runs on your machine. You download it, you install it, you run it purely on your machine. The wallet never leaves your machine. Now, some of the web-based wallets, they are hosted on a web server. So you load the code from a web server, and I find that kind of scary, actually. Rye Wallet, which is now Nano Wallet, we're using same code base for the core wallet. So I really like that project, but I still must say that I'm slightly uncomfortable about the fact that this is served from the web server and used by so many people. I mean, the other day when it went down, I actually got scared because I think, oh shit! I mean, what if they've been hacked? It could be a disaster. Yep. So this and Canoe doesn't work like that. You can build it on your own if you like to from source, or you can download a binary, and we have signed binaries. I have no idea why the official core wallet isn't signed. I think it should be. So the binaries that you download from nano.org, they should be signed using GNU Privacy Guard or something like that, like we do. I see no reason why they shouldn't be signed. So it's an extra, safety net, right? Yep. Which is why we actually took the pain to do that and also explain quite clearly how to verify the signature when you download it. And if you're still not sure about this, well, you can build it yourself, right? Right. And run it. So there are quite a lot of these factors that I think...
so security is huge.
I think it is,
Yeah.
and it's going to be bigger and bigger as we go.
I have one question for people using the wallet. A lot of people are afraid to use beta wallets. As long as people have their seed written down somewhere, there's not really any risk in using Canoe as a beta.
Yeah, I mean, this is interesting because we call it a beta. It's a label.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing else. It's not like if we call it a banana, it doesn't turn into something else,
or
right?
a banana.
If we suddenly declare, it's 1.0, now it's 1.0. Or what did you change? Oh, we didn't change anything. Now it's released. It doesn't make it safer. It doesn't make it better.
Right.
The only reason we're keeping the beta label is because we would like to polish it a little bit more, fix some bugs, fix some crashes, before we declare it sort of a 1.0. If we look at the security aspect, I see no difference at all, actually, because, as you said, if you write down the seed, and this is, again, the security aspect of Canoe is pretty good. The wallet never leaves your machine.
Right.
It's never sent to the server, not even in an encrypted form. So if you write down your seed properly, the only way that you could lose money is if we had a bug that either leaked the seed somehow. I have no idea how that would, happen, or sent money to the wrong account. Like if you're going to pay your friend and suddenly you're sending it to someone else. Those two bugs, I really can't see them. I really can't see how they could be there. So yeah,
I bring that up for clarification because I want people to know that, like, if they have their funds on Nano Wallet or Nano Vault and they're uncomfortable with that web-based kind of wallet, they do have an option available to them that they can send it to and not be scared that they're going to lose their money just because it's called beta.
Yeah, and I think, again, it's kind of tricky situation to talk about the others because I don't want to talk shit about the others. Nano Wallet is great. I mean, it's been serving the community superbly. But when I suddenly realized the fact that, what would happen if someone hacks that machine? Yeah, it sort of scared me. And it was kind of funny because I hadn't really thought about that. I've been thinking about how the code works and, the wallet is encrypted, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's safe. That's good. That's solid. And then suddenly I realized, well, wait a minute. The code is served from that web server. What if someone breaks into it and modifies the code?
Right.
You could, I'm going to scare a lot of people now, right? Sorry, but it's the truth. If someone does that, if I broke into that server, I would go into and I would tweak that little code and collect all the seeds. I could collect all the seeds for all the users, and then boom, I could steal all the money from everyone.
So when all your seeds get stolen, look in the Canoe Wallet for.
I really, really hope that it's secured properly, that machine, and I think it is. It should be, at least. But still, it's Canoe is a different beast in that sense. It runs only on your machine. Yeah.
Okay, so I think we have covered a ton of stuff, and it's been awesome talking to you. So I think we can wrap it up. The last word goes to you, though. What are some words of advice or inspiration for the Nano community?
Ooh, yeah. Well, that was hard. I think if I'm gonna ask for something that I sort of think is a bit lacking, I think we should have a little bit more cooperation between different developers, For example, a really cool thing that happened with Canoe now is that Ben Cray, who is making one of the really nice iOS wallets, native iOS wallets, we started talking, and he said, I would like to use your backend. Yeah, cool, great. So he is now integrating with the Canoe backend. So we're going to use the same backend. I mean, why would we waste time building the same stuff all over. So I think, and that's something I would like for Canoe to turn into sort of an umbrella thing, where lots of different wallets can cooperate. It doesn't. It's better if we sort of make good stuff together. And then, of course, I would like to also say that I'm sorry if I'm offending anyone, like people behind Nano Wallet or people behind any of the other wallets or people in Core. It's not my intention. I have some views. I stand behind them, but I don't want to offend anyone. So I do think all of us can do things better. We could for sure do things better too, the Canoe team.
Absolutely.
In various ways. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you for that. So thanks so much for being with us. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
And for everybody that tuned in, thanks for checking out NanoCast. If you liked it, make sure you let us know in the comments. Tell us who you want to see on NanoCast. Tell us what you want to see on NanoCast. And also, Nano Things is sponsoring this episode as well. So if you leave a comment, you'll be entered to win a free sticker. And who doesn't want a Nano sticker?
Ooh.
So that's all for now. But until next time, I still don't have a good goodbye, so nano, nano, nano.
Nano, nano. Yeah.